Welcome aboard the Spirits Operator podcast. I'm your host, psychic medium Mary B. Join me as we navigate the ethereal currents between the mystical and the mundane. Get ready to explore the unseen forces shaping our world and discover how to harness their power for personal growth, healing, and transformation. Welcome back to the Mediumship Series. In today's episode, The Journey of Embracing Your Gifts, I'm joined by Christina as she shares her personal path of discovering, trusting, and embracing her intuitive abilities. From early experiences she couldn't explain to profound validations from spirit, Christina opens up about the challenges, doubts, and breakthroughs that helped her step into her gifts. Whether you're just beginning to explore your own intuition or have been walking a spiritual path for years, I think you'll find inspiration in her story. Well, hello, Christina. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, actually. It's been a long time coming.
I've been pestering you for a while, I know, but
yeah.
Hey, the timing is right, and that's what counts. So now, a lot of us who are intuitive type people or psychic type people have had childhood experiences that have led us to opening up further and further as we go along, or even closing off, and then coming back to it. So looking back at your childhood, were you sensitive to spirit? Were you intuitive then?
I have to say yes. Specifically, I can't really pinpoint I feel like I was definitely intuitive as a child, sensitive to energies. There was a house that we lived in during my younger years, so before high school, so grade school, middle school. I grew up north, and we had basements. And so my parents, when we moved into this place, redid the whole downstairs for us kids, which was great. So when we had friends over, all of that, we would go down and play downstairs if it was cold outside. And then we'd have sleepovers, that kind of stuff. So fun stuff as a kid. But I was always very, I guess you want to say, I was definitely afraid, but I also felt like there was something there that I couldn't see.
In the basement?
Especially
Okay.
in the basement. And from what I can remember as a child, I don't think it was anything specific that ever happened, but I feel like there was definitely something there. And my sister can also attest to it just felt off in the basement. So later on, selling the house and then moving away, we had a neighbor that had told my parents that there was a previous house fire that someone had passed on in the basement. And so that kind of confirmed our suspicion or our gut feelings like there was something more there that we couldn't see.
And look at that. A lot of people don't get that confirmation. So that's, especially when it comes to their childhood houses, that it might be haunted.
Yes. Yeah. Because that was a moment where, you can say to your parents that didn't necessarily believe you, see, I told you there was something going on. So, but as far as anything psychically or intuitive when I was young, I can't say that anything really came to light until I was a little bit older.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So when did you first realize that your experiences were more than coincidence or your imagination? Like, would you say that was the part where you found the house out, or was that later?
Well, yes, that was definitely a confirmation there. And that was several years after moving out. So I was already, I believe, graduated from high school, when we found out. So it was definitely years later. And yes, I was older. Really, I didn't come into my intuitiveness or mediumship, because I feel like I do have a little bit of mediumship abilities. That didn't necessarily come to light till about 2017.
Okay.
That was, for me, fairly recent because, I'm older now and more mature. So fairly recent. And I was always interested in psychic abilities, psychics in general. I visited psychics through my 20s, 30s. So I did believe in all of that. I felt like I had a good gut instinct. I felt like the women in my family did in general have good gut instincts. But I really didn't start coming into my own, so to speak, until about 2017. And it was some health things for me. I wasn't doing well physically. I was suffering a little bit mentally because of that. And so I was in a point in my life where I was searching for something more.
Mm-hmm.
I have always believed in God and a higher power. I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school from the time I was in kindergarten till 8th grade. So I was raised in the church and believing those beliefs. And a lot of those beliefs have not changed for me, but I really started to tap in. I've always been a praying woman, but I felt like that during that time, something or someone was trying to reach out and say, hey, I am here to help you. You just have to ask.
Okay.
So with that being said, I feel like I was then more of seeing multiple numbers and different signs from the universe, however you want to say that. So I was getting signs and synchronicities and actually paying attention to them.
Yes. Because you were
Where,
probably getting them before, but not, I mean, we do that all the time, don't we? We just kind of
yes.
shovel it off.
Well, knowing what I know now and what to pay attention to now, yes, it was happening all my life. I just, we go about life and do what we do. And the noise of life, it gets a little loud sometimes. And so when we don't sit quiet and really pay attention, and I feel like someone or something was trying to throw me a lifeline. And so I started then to pay more attention. And that opened up a huge doorway for me and actually changed my life, so to speak. It changed the way that I viewed a lot of things, and it showed me more about myself through my journey that I didn't know, things I didn't know I was capable of.
So just so I understand, the thing that kind of led you to this was that you were having health issues, then had an effect on your mental health as well. So then you started seeking, and things just kind of started falling into place. Is that about right?
Yes.
Was there
Yes, for
something
sure.
specific or like a specific moment that you remember that you were like, aha? Do you have anything like that?
Actually, yes. Oddly enough, I was taking a nice hot bath and having quiet time, not feeling well that afternoon, and started to pray. And I had an awareness come over me at that point that I knew that it was like an aha moment. And I knew that it was a sign from the other side, that it was almost like an overwhelming, we've got you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that my deceased grandmother was actually a part of that sign. I don't know how I knew, I just knew.
Right.
And I broke down and cried. I am not someone who cries easily. I hold it in. So for me to get emotional like that was it. That was a moment. And I shared that with my husband and said, there is something more for me. This is it. I know that I am on the right path of doing what I'm doing and searching for answers for my health and wellness. And I need to just trudge on. So oddly enough, yes, in my bathtub,
We get a lot of messages in the shower and bathtub, and I do believe it's because water is a conductor of energy and it amplifies things. So what was the biggest challenge in accepting and embracing your gifts and abilities?
that would be just having confidence in
Mm,
myself that the messages I was receiving, I guess you would want to say when I was, because here's where the mediumship part of it comes in, that I really had a lot of doubt that I could actually do this. And so that was a huge challenge for me. You know, I went through the whole thing like, why me? Why am
yeah.
I so special? And then actually having faith that what I was receiving and asking for from spirit actually were messages. And so I think a lot of it was just having confidence. Confidence was the biggest hurdle and the hardest part for me.
Was there something that happened that gave you confirmation to give you the confidence? Or did you just convince yourself over time?
No, there were a few instances that I could say when through my, uh, in 2017, when kind of the floodgates opened,
Mhm.
I found myself surrounded by people and in an environment where my gifts could grow. And
Mm,
so I purposefully did that, surrounding myself with people who had gifts that I was able to answer questions that I had. And, it opened up a new atmosphere that I was not a part of before. And
right.
so, with that, my confidence came along because those that I was surrounded by, you being one of those people that was in my circle, I would get confirmation from people like you that, oh, yeah, yes, I got that same message. But there was a mind blowing experience that hopefully I can share with you that gave me the confidence like, holy crap, I can't believe that
Well,
I.
now we're on the edge here. This kind of leads up to my next question. How did you learn to trust the information, right? So, like, here we go.
So, my daughter, who lived with us at the time, was a paramedic. And of course, she has seen a lot of stuff in her career. And there was one evening that I laid down in bed, and I feel like immediately, as soon as I closed my eyes, I had this vision of a man that was right there.
Uh-huh.
And I could tell you exactly what he was wearing, down to his hair, his belt, the whole nine. And so, and I knew that somehow that was connected to my daughter. And I got the overwhelming sense to reach out to her to
Right.
make sure she was okay. And so I trusted that gut feeling. And I knew she was at work, so I didn't call her. I just texted her, hey, are you okay? So I got a response back, yes, I'm okay. Why? What's up? So I explained to her I had this man come to me, and I gave her details of this man and what he was wearing down to the belt. And I gave her a name. And I also told her that he spoke with a thick country accent. And I said to her, I'm getting Alabama, and gave her a few other details. And I said, I don't know what this means. I just need to know that you're okay.
Yeah.
So, her being on the truck with her partner, they had just ran a call that this person on the call was wearing very similar to what I had described. And so I asked her, has this man passed on? She said, no, Mom, he was okay when we left him. And I said, okay, the man that came to me, he's no longer, he's no
Incarnate.
longer with us. And so I left her with that information and I went to sleep. The next day, she said, Mom, I know exactly who you're talking about. And I reached out to the person that was with me on that call. She said, but Mom, this was a few weeks ago and I wasn't the initial person on this call. She said, I was kind of in the background. And I said, okay. Of course, she was confused about what it all meant. And so was I. But I had the strong feeling that when my daughter was there present in that man's home, he was there spiritually and gravitated toward her and just was kind of clinging on. And so she had looked into it, and the name that I gave her, that indeed was his name. And because I gave her his proper name and I said, but he goes by this nickname.
Well, that's a confirmation.
She was able to go onto social media. He indeed was from Alabama. And she also confirmed his exact clothing that I described from her partner that was there on that call with her that night. So that to me was very mind blowing.
Yeah.
I think I had maybe spoken to you about that.
I remember that. Yeah.
Before. And that was really confirmation that there was no way that I could have known that information. I didn't know that man. I didn't talk to my daughter about this particular call she had been on. I knew nothing about. I knew down to the fact that he was a smoker and very minute detail,
Right.
something that I would not have known. And so that was very convincing to me that indeed there's a gift that I have, and that if I tapped into it, I could probably get some info that I maybe don't want to get sometimes. So I did not ask for this man to come to me as I'm trying to go to sleep.
Right.
But my gut told me I needed to check on my daughter, and just so,
Well, what's
I listened.
interesting about this is that not only did it change, your perception of your information you were receiving and confirming for you, and maybe that was part of his duty for coming to you, was to give you this as part of the gift that you needed to accept your own knowing and your own abilities.
Yeah.
And then he's also then subsequently touched the other two lives that are involved in this, which would be your daughter and the partner, because they then also get to confirm that there is an after experience, an afterlife, which can change the trajectory of their path and their thinking. So I feel like everybody's a teacher, and even that spirit was a teacher and was ready to teach you, a life lesson and kind of open you up a little bit. So how cool is that?
For sure. Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
Well, going into that, I know that you're into ghost investigations and things like that. Was that something that kind of triggered that, or was that a long time coming? Because you've always been interested in that kind of stuff, you said. So,
well, to be completely honest, I was absolutely terrified of the thought of ghosts when I was young.
Yeah.
So much so that I had commented to my parents that when I got old enough to own my own home, it was going to be a new house that I built that nobody had ever lived in before, because I did not want to live in a haunted house.
That's what happens to people who have lived in a haunted house. I completely resonate with that.
Yeah. And it scared the absolute crap out of me to think, and knowing what I know now, my belief are that there are spirits everywhere. They're walking among us, but not knowing that when I was a child, or not believing that way. Yes, I was completely terrified. And so that stuck with me for quite some time. And I would say around maybe 2005 or so, I think that's when the ghost hunting shows really started to become
Oh yeah,
popular on
I remember
TV.
that.
Like
Hmm.
Ghost Hunters was one of the first ones that I had ever watched,
Me
that
too.
series with the guys Taps from Taps. Um, and that opened up, it terrified me at first to watch it,
You were hooked though.
but it became kind of like an obsession for
Mm.
me. And to find answers, and just the thought that we can communicate with or without, these gadgets and devices.
Yeah.
Those make it fun, all the bells and whistles. But yeah, that I would say around 2005 or 6, I became interested in watching
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. And then later on, it started out with house clearings, people
Oh, okay.
asking for help. And then that just turned into then my passion for investigating and yeah, exciting stuff.
So how do your abilities then, I guess, help you on these investigations?
I feel like with tapping into your instinct or your gut feelings is what most people would probably refer to it as. If I get a gut feeling that, this back bedroom is, that just brought up a memory of confirmation, but like the gut feeling that, oh, this back bedroom, I feel something back here. We're going to want to spend maybe a little more time back there. Or so that's where it comes in handy to kind of, kind of see
Testing the
what's going
water.
on.
Is this in fact haunted, or, is someone just having a struggle, or maybe someone's just passing through and not necessarily haunted per se?
For sure. For sure. So I do like to tap in that way. My partner Daisy does as well. She also has gifts and abilities. So with the two of us being,
Dynamic duo.
we're like a dynamic duo. Yes, thank you. We have a lot of fun, and I think it satisfies for us that need for answers. Like what is on the other side, and what does happen to you after you have passed.
What do you think? What do you think does happen? Because we've got ghosts, right? And then we have spirits. Do you see a difference between the ghost and a spirit, and what is that to you?
I don't necessarily feel like there's a difference between ghosts and spirits. I feel like ghosts and spirits are one and the same,
Okay.
but I do feel like entities are completely different from a ghost
Can
or
you
spirit.
explain that?
So to me, an entity would be an energetic form that's on the other side, not in this physical world that we're in. And they are an entity. I explain it, or the way that I look at that is they were never a living human.
Okay.
Okay. So an entity could be a demon, an entity could be an angel, an entity could be a spirit guide if they have never been living before on this earth, I should say, or
Hmm.
clarify. They could be, an entity could be good or bad. An entity to me could be an alien. I
Hmm.
believe in alien life form. I don't believe that we are the only life form out there in this
Yeah.
vast universe. So
Hmm.
ghosts and spirits are in one group, entities would be in another group.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is a good differentiation. I find that a lot of the times when I've cleared houses, it's not always quote unquote haunted by a spirit or a ghost. It actually is typically energy that is built up and kind of made, I call it the energy vomit monster. you know, and it builds over time with, maybe there's been sadness or troubles or things like that, and it gets heavy, right? And
Yes.
it's like dust bunnies that keep getting bigger with more dust and more dust and more dust. And then you have like a dust bunny monster. Well, that's kind of what it feels like with those energies. And I think that to me would be also a form of an entity because it is energy, but it doesn't have a, you know, a form, so to speak, that we would understand. It just kind of is a conglomeration of energy and things like that.
Yes. Yes. I believe, yes, that same way. Poltergeist can be considered that same thing. Energy that is projected from someone living
Mm-hmm.
um, can create its own life form, so to speak. Um, I feel like that someone can create poltergeist activity, meaning they can move things in the home that makes it look like someone else or something else has done it. But in fact, their energy has built up and created its own ball, so to speak, right? And because of the type of energy that is, because it's normally negative emotions, something tragic that has happened to them, that has created a buildup of like a lower vibrational energy that has the ability to be projected at something and actually move things, kind of like a um, telekinesis or
That's exactly what I was going to say. I've met people
yes.
that have telekinesis and I've also had people that have been in homes where there is the movement of activity, you know, door slamming, things like that, that
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily a ghost or a spirit, but definitely the energy mess that has been created over time.
Mhm.
So differentiating between the two was an interesting thing, you know, like, is this person experiencing this because they have an energy in the house? Well, it was happening outside of the house. So we can kind of go, no, I'm having a hard time in life. No, that's not the case. So, okay, so let's check off all these boxes. And then we go, wow, you actually might have telekinesis. And I know that there's a few people that I've run into that have had that. And I find that
Yes.
very fascinating. But I've also bent a spoon, you know, with energy. So we know that there's some things that we just cannot explain. So,
Well, I pay more attention to energies around me, feelings around me. I like to energetically protect myself. You know, in the mornings when I get up, I like to surround myself in white light, and that's just my personal way of doing it. I
mhm,
envision white light around me as like a protective bubble or blanket. I feel like I pay more attention to like going into a room and just getting a sense of, this is not so good. Like paying more attention to my gut. If it's
mhm,
a situation that maybe I should not be in, or I would have ignored it before, I will pay more attention to it now and, you know, leave the area. If I get a sense that I should not be traveling somewhere or going somewhere for the day, I pay more attention to that. And so I think the biggest thing is me paying attention to how am I feeling energetically. What is my gut telling me, or what are my guides telling me about my specific movements and, you know, plans for the day. And so that
mhm,
has helped me out a lot in my everyday life. But it also going kind of getting into the mediumship part of it, or knowing or believing that there is an afterlife. I live life a little more comfortable knowing that, you know, if someone I love should pass on, that, you know, the potential for them watching over me and just being an I love you away, you know, I have comfort in knowing that I can
mm,
talk to them at any time and they probably do hear me and they probably are giving me a message back. That gives me a lot of comfort in life. So, yes, there's a lot of unknown, but having gifts and knowing how to use them has given me a lot of comfort.
That's awesome. I agree. Knowing that and truly knowing it is just, it is its own gift to the individual that's experiencing these things. So now, what kind of advice would you give someone who is beginning to experience or, tapping into their own intuition or their own mediumship abilities?
What I would advise is not to discount what you're feeling and going through. That once you have an awareness that there is something different going on, you possibly feel like somebody from the other side is reaching out, or you have some abilities that are coming to light for you. Don't discount them. Do research. Open up a book about it. Do a little bit of research. Surround yourself, or try to find a group of people who also have abilities, like maybe a group, like a teaching group. Find a teacher that can explain things to you, that can kind of shed new light on this whole new world. Because I remember at first I was a little fearful and thought that I was, possibly losing my mind. And that wasn't the case at all. And it brought me, like I had mentioned, it brought me into a world of other like-minded people who could teach me along the way when I had questions. And I probably will always experience things that I have questions. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people who have nothing but love for you and support, and can answer your questions and support you through your journey. Because it is a journey.
It is.
And it's constantly evolving. And, the whole world is changing right now. And so I feel like it's very important that we do listen and be still and quiet. So,
yeah, I think it's important to not do this alone. I mean, that is the biggest thing that I have learned, is that when I've tried to do things alone, I felt really isolated and confused and things like that. And fortunately, I've been gifted with people in my life that, as soon as I start talking about it, because I've never felt that it was unreal, like that I was making it up. I knew that I wasn't going crazy. I just was like, wow, I can see all these things. That's wild. And I would share it with people. And then I would end up finding people that were kind of hiding it from everybody else, and then we would be together, and then we would explore. And I think that's such a blessing. And having, a sister who is also connected and things like that has been a blessing too. So if, like you said, if you're experiencing it, there are so many resources and groups out there that are, free and available, and highly encourage it. And if you don't have a little shop in your town, if you're in a small town, do the online thing. It is so available to you now. And that is where all this change comes in, and this connection. It's really kind of special. So looking back at the Christina who was just beginning this journey, what would you want her to know?
I would want her to know that she is supported. She has always been supported and surrounded by love and protection. And I would want her to know that she was not crazy, and just that there is help along the way. Yeah. There is help along the way. So,
well, we have had a lot of very interesting experiences where we have witnessed things together, and that is that confirmation of togetherness that you were referring to, is when you have a shared experience with someone, it is hard to deny that it actually happened, because you can really blow off an experience with yourself. But when you add in another person, it's like a whole nother ball game, right? So even during my astral travel kind of things, I love having another person with me, because they're witnessing the same thing I'm witnessing, which
Yeah.
blows my mind. So, and it's like, that's the proof I need in order to prove to myself. So one of my favorite stories about us was when we took this drive up to, where was it? Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Yeah, an alien conference.
And that's it, an alien conference. And who does that? We do that. So we're driving up. And if you've been watching and listening to the podcast, Dean was one of the people that we met at that event. And he does ghost investigations, which is like, okay, this is so funny how everything kind of lines up, right? But so we leave that place. And this part is the one that was most exciting. We're on our way.
Music from the 90s. So we had grunge rock on, right? And so we were listening to Soundgarden. A Soundgarden song came on, and that brought up the subject of Chris Cornell, the lead singer of Soundgarden and Audio Slave. And so we decided, well, we had questions, right, on certain things and the nature of him no longer being with us. And so we decided, let's just tap in. We're going to talk to him. And that is what we did, didn't we?
Yeah, he shows up in the back seat, like, of the car. And we were both like, whoa, and witnessing this. And thankfully, Christina was driving because I got into like a weird, trance almost state. I'm aware, but I can, kind of be in between the spaces, right? And so I'll just start blabbing out what he's saying. You're asking him questions. I'm, interpreting answers. You're hearing answers that are very similar. Like, it's just this insane confirmation. And we can't prove any of this to anybody, but having that shared experience of something so extraordinary with someone that we really admired was quite exciting, and since then have had messages from him and things like that. And it's, my husband says he haunted me for a while. I was like, he did not haunt me. Like, I asked to talk to him.
Yes.
Poor guy. I'm blaming him. But it's been an interesting experience. And every now and then he'll come through with some sort of message, and we'll both end up getting the messages that day. So it like, I'll be like, hey, have you heard from Chris? And you'd be like, yeah, actually, he came through this morning. And it's just funny how he tends to align with both of us on his messages. So
yes, I think that's very interesting. It's very fun. I kind of look at it as him being a guide on the other side, so to speak. We've asked him to accompany us to a couple different investigations.
He actually likes that. He likes going on those.
Yeah. And he made his presence known out at the beach.
Yes.
One evening, remember, with the lights. And so I feel like that's a cool thing that you and I share.
Yeah.
I don't think that many people appreciate it or would maybe even believe it, but that is our thing that we share, and that is okay. Yeah.
Yes. It's like the other random thing that we had. And I'm going to say it because I picture us, we're going out to the beach. We're going to go try to communicate with extraterrestrials. And the sun is still up. We're kind of like at the cusp of it going down and getting ready for the darkness. And we're coming over this big hump of sand right over the dunes. And then I get smacked on my arm by you. Mary, did you see that? And so go ahead, your turn.
So I was actually facing the water. And so I know what I saw, and it was a craft of sorts, and it was a row of lights that the lights went on in sequence and then went off in sequence and then came back on and back off again. And it was only for like a split second, but it was there right above the horizon of the water and the sky. And Like
Yeah.
I was gobsmacked. What was that? Yes, I
And she
smacked the
slaps my
digits.
arm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I looking at? And you had just seen it. And so I'm just kind of standing there trying to get my phone ready for something, to record. And there's no time for that. As soon as she smacks me, I look up, I see a row of 5 lights kind of
Mhm,
kaleidoscope out. And
mhm.
then they're above the horizon, but not really high, just kind of higher than a boat, but lower. Yeah, it was insane. And then they just kind of back into one and then they're gone. Right.
Yeah.
So we're both like, okay, I'm so glad you were here to see that. And then it showed itself again. And I mean, our intention was to kind of go out there and do that. And then later on, what's even more funny is we're sitting there in the dark, and we see all these red lights doing something more on the vertical and then kind of turning horizontal. And we could not get them on video. They were red. It was hard for the video to pick up,
Mhm.
but they were there and we were just kind of witnessing it. So this night was very active with, the sky activity. And so
It was.
well, I encourage you, all of you out there, who want to experience things, do it with a friend, just be open to it.
For
And,
sure.
of course, protect your energy, ask for intention and all that good stuff. That's important. But go into it with an open mind and you'll experience some things that are just amazing. And you know what? You don't have to convince everybody it happened. Not at all. But
No.
when you witness with the other person, it happened. And then that's just enough, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as somebody else saw what I saw or heard what I heard, yeah, I'm good with that.
Exactly.
Because I do have to add, even though I believe in all of this stuff, and my partner Daisy can attest, I am one of the more skeptical people, especially when it comes to what did we just hear? What did we just see? What did we just photograph? I want to try my best to be skeptical and
Yes.
debunk it because there are many, many things that, yes, you can explain if you just rationally thought about it,
Yes.
that it could be something not paranormal at all.
Right.
So I am one that doesn't just jump to the first, that was paranormal. No, I am very skeptical. I handle my investigations very in a skeptical manner. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
I
And
appreciate that about you
yeah, yeah,
because you need to have a level of that. Because, yes, like you said, you're just going to be like, oh, yeah, that is, and that is, and that is. Well, and for those that need proof outside of that, because say they're not in tune to hearing or connecting with spirit on their own, they use these tools and gadgets to show afterlife. And so
mhm.
if the gadget is picking up something, are you too close to an electrical outlet? Is that what's going on? And the meter keeps going off. That's something to think about. Was there a
Yes.
car driving by that a light hit the window and reflected off? That is absolutely something that picks up and you think you see something. But what I want to say though is that when you have an intuitive or mediumship ability to connect with what is around you, then that adds another level. So having people like you and Daisy that are both in tune to
Mhm.
to that, it can lead you in the right direction or give you information on top of it. The equipment does weird stuff too. So
It does. A lot of false positives. And yes, anytime you're working with something that's, electronic or mechanical or whatever it might be, you can get many false positives. And you may not pick up stuff with equipment when there indeed is something there. So it works both
mhm.
ways. And the best thing that I can say to do if you do this type of thing, investigating either as a hobby or full time, try to look at both sides, try to be the skeptic, but also have an open mind. And I think you'll be very successful in doing so, and try to open up. I feel like everyone has the ability to be sensitive in some manner. I think we all have some type of gifts that we can, if we just tapped into, we could learn that, that about ourselves. So yeah, I believe it's a God-given gift that we all have some type of ability or gift, whatever you want to call that. So.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, we're all still part of spirit, so we're connected.
For
Well,
sure.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I know that it's going to help a lot of people on their own journey, and I appreciate you talking about it and sharing it.
Yes. Listen, anytime. And this has been so much fun. I love talking about this stuff. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Christina. And we'll probably be talking to you again come spooky season, because we're going to talk about the investigations and things that you do later on. So stay tuned for an interview with both Christina and Daisy later on. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.